Hey guys, what is up? It's your girl, Gracetorie, and I'm back with a whole new podcast episode. We're talking about burnout. So in my last episode, I talked about self-improvement content and how it can be dangerous if you don't understand how to balance it and what's real about it and what's not. So I thought it would be a good transition to talk about burnout in this episode because I talked about it so heavily in the last one. Basically, we're going to be talking about what the signs are for burnout, how to prevent it, and how to fix it once you have it. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Of course, I have my list again, and we're just going to jump on in. Before we do, don't forget to follow on whatever platform you're currently listening or watching on, as well as leave a comment if you can, or like. It takes about 0.2 seconds. It's totally free and helps my podcast so much. It brings up the engagement, which is so important, and it would mean the world to me. If you're watching before we hit 1K or even after, go ahead and comment #GalWithGoals if you do subscribe on YouTube, because I want to know who's joining the community so that I can welcome you in. You are a gal with goals who's joining a community of women who are working hard to reach our goals, and we're doing it together. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on in. I'm Gracetorie, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. This is an updated episode to the one I did a couple years ago on how to avoid burnout. I was reading over that one, and some of the things I wanted to include and expand upon more, but some of the things I took out and replaced with other things now that I've kind of been around a little bit longer. So if you want to watch that, I think it's called How to Avoid Burnout, and it's from 2022, I think, or 2023 possibly, but this is an updated version of that one. So the first thing on the list is setting boundaries and sticking to them, including mentally, and no excessive hours within those boundaries. So let me expand on that. Setting boundaries by saying, okay, when I'm at work, I'm going to do work things. I'm going to think about work things. I can stress about it, whatever I need to do at work. But when I'm at home, I'm not going to think about work. I'm not going to stress about work. I'm not going to do any of those things. And vice versa. When I'm home, I do home things. I don't do home things at work. That's just an example of a boundary, and it's really easy to, for the most part, I wouldn't say it's super easy if you're a workaholic, but for the most part it's easy to not do work things at home and not do home things at work, but it's not so easy to mentally not stress about them when you're doing one or the other. So you have to become really good at compartmentalizing and really committing to giving your all to one thing and not the other, because you can very easily be doing one thing physically and then you're just not present, you're not there, and then that's just going to create some burnout from being overwhelmed and trying to get it all done at once. You need to just compartmentalize and do one thing at a time. And I did mention at the end of that, no excessive hours. So when you're setting boundaries, do what you think is actually manageable. Don't be doing an excessive amount of hours at work, an excessive amount of things at home. Make sure that you're doing a reasonable amount of hours for each thing, and you're not overcommitting, and you're not doing the overtime and things like that, because obviously that's a very quick way to get burnt out. Next on the list is creating ample time to recharge and do things you enjoy. I have hit a point before as a fellow workaholic where I have forgotten to do things I enjoy, and I have to physically schedule it back in, because if I don't schedule it, it's not happening. Sorry, not room on my calendar for fun or enjoyment or happiness today. And you should find some sort of enjoyment from your job and the things that you do from day to day. You shouldn't just be walking around miserable. If you are, that's a whole nother conversation, but you need to seriously do some rework around your life and take some time to remember what you enjoy and go back to that. But aside from work and things like that, you should also schedule time to do fun things, like go out with friends, go get a coffee and read a book at your favorite bookstore, go hang out with your dog and take them for a walk. Things that you enjoy, whatever they are. It can be a hobby, it can just be socializing, it can be alone time, but I hope you're doing something a little bit more fun than just meditating. We all love meditating, but come on, buddy. Let's do something more fun than that. So definitely make sure you're taking time to recharge and do things you enjoy, because it is recharging. When you do things you love, you're recharging yourself. You are remotivating yourself. You are giving yourself a reason to keep vibing, keep it going. So definitely make sure you're taking time to do things you enjoy and not just sticking to your to-do list and checking things off endlessly. Pacing yourself. I'm someone who likes to try and take on the world and get it all done in a day, but you have to pace yourself. I've learned a lot in this area. you can write a whole plan for everything, and this is what I recommend doing when you come up with a new idea or you have a new task. Break it down and say, okay, I'm going to do this much right now. I'm going to do this much by the end of the week. I'm going to do this much in the next month. Because then you aren't having the overwhelming thought of, I have to get this big thing done, and you're also not trying to do too much at once. Because you don't want to put the weight of the world on your shoulders. You want to take away from that. You want to do things you enjoy without overdoing them. So definitely pace yourself. Ask for help as well as divide tasks. So I hate doing this. I hate asking for help, but you gotta do it. You don't have to like divide off everything, obviously, but ask for help. Maybe you have a friend who's really, really good at photography and you need pictures done for something and you've tried, you can't quite get it right, you don't know how to edit. Ask them for help. Obviously, pay them for their services, or, you know, bargain with them. Some friends are open to, like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, things like that. But definitely ask for help, even if it's just, I need help cleaning the house, I'm feeling very overwhelmed. Ask for help. People are there to help you. Divide tasks. If you have a big project at work and you have people asking if you need help, it's okay to say yes. It doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you a bad employee. It actually shows that you are advanced enough to know what you need help with. So definitely ask for help. Reprioritize. You cannot do it all. Trust me, I've tried. You can't do it all. And sometimes if you're trying to do it all, that means that everything is a priority to you. So you need to reprioritize what is most important that day, that hour, that moment. And it's okay to reprioritize as much as you need to, but don't try and do everything at once. Prioritize what is most important. I like to do a top 3 for the day and then like 5 to 7 to do small things on top of that. I'm talking like take out the trash, do a load of laundry, like small things on top of the 3 big things. With that being said, don't beat yourself up if you don't complete your to-do list. Life is not predictable. You can't write everything down, and sometimes you get it all done, but sometimes you don't, and that's just life. Like, you cannot sit down and say, I'm gonna do all of this and there's gonna be no obstacles, no problems, and nothing is gonna go wrong today, because guess what? Things happen, and pivoting is so important. I talked about that in my last podcast episode, but things are gonna happen, things are gonna get in the way. Maybe you are just not feeling well and you need to rest. You need to prioritize that in the moment. But don't beat yourself up if you don't get everything done on your to-do list. It's life, and it is what it is. Think long-term and sustainable, and what I mean by that is have a plan. So don't be frantically trying to do things like, let me get as much done as possible. Make a plan. Like I said, break it down. Don't try and do everything at once. Think long-term. How am I going to do this long-term? How am I going to sustain this thing long-term? For example, the podcast. If I would have just jumped in and said, I'm doing 100 episodes today, and we'll see what happens, and then I upload all of them that day, not only is that impossible, but then I wouldn't be thinking about the future. I wouldn't be, like, is it sustainable to do 100 episodes a day? Absolutely not. Is it thinking about long term? Like, is there someone out there who's gonna see one of my episodes and say, I'm gonna watch 100 more today? No, and that's a very extreme example, but I wanted to do something blatantly obvious so you can understand what I'm saying. Like, if you're creating something like a podcast, you sit down and you say, okay, today I'm going to focus on the cover art. Maybe tomorrow I'll work on writing an episode. And then by the end of the week, I want to get my first episode up. And that is a lot more attainable and a lot less stressful than saying, I'm going to do 100 today and we'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it goes well. Maybe it doesn't. I don't have a plan for the future, so we're just going to vibe it out. And sometimes I do that. I'm not going to lie. But let's try and think long term. Remember your why and pay attention to how motivated you are. So, for example, my why for the podcast is I want to help people. I want them to feel inspired. I also want to build a community because I know what it feels like to try and reach your goals and just not have anybody who understands and feel so lonely. So I want a community of women so that we all have each other to lean on. That is mainly my why. There's a few other small things, but that's like the big thing. So whenever I am feeling sad or like what's going on or whatever, that's what I think about. In addition to that, you have to keep a pulse on how motivated you are. Because if you're starting to feel unmotivated, that's a symptom of burnout, and you want to catch it early. Like, sometimes you just aren't going to be motivated. Sometimes you're not going to feel good. Sometimes you're going to have a lot going on. Sometimes someone's going to say something that hurts your feelings, and you're not going to be motivated. That's fine. But if it's every single day and you're noticing it's getting worse and worse, that's when you need to pay attention and start leaning on your why, as well as work on things that are going to make you not go into burnout by knowing the symptoms and doing the things to stop that from happening. So take a rest, drink some water, take a break, find things to remotivate yourself, do things that are gonna stop you from going into that burnout zone. Something that can prevent burnout is having a healthy sleep schedule. I'm an 8 hours a week. No, that's not what we meant. I am an 8 hours a day kind of girl, a night, I guess. I'll get it right one day. Because, 8 hours, that's what I need. That's where I'm at. I get 8 hours, I'm good. I get 7 minutes and... Why can't I talk? I get 7 hours and 59 minutes. Not so good. Very mean. I'm good on 8. I could go for more, but I usually am fine. Like, if I do too much, I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to get anything done. So 8 is like my magic number. It's different for everyone. I recommend finding what works best for you. For me, it's 8, but it could be 7 for you or 10 for you. I don't know. I know apparently people with ADHD need longer than average people, but I have ADHD and 8 works for me. So again, like, it's very, very up to the individual, but having a healthy sleep schedule is so important and is going to contribute to keeping you from getting burnt out. Another thing that can help prevent burnout is prioritizing your health, meals, water, making sure you're getting enough water, that you're eating a good diet that's going to sustain you, give you energy, you're getting all of your vitamins, and you are fueling your body with nutrients, because your body can't operate on junk food. It's just not how it works. I'm sorry, you're going to feel gross, icky, moody, and it's going to lead to burnout way quicker. Trust me, I've tried it. So definitely make sure your health, diet, and sleep, all of those things, meals, are on the healthier side. It's okay to not be 100%, but I want you to put food in that nourishes your body because of the mental benefits, the physical benefits, how good you're going to feel, and how much more you're going to be able to achieve. So definitely talk to your doctor before you make any serious diet changes, but I also, want to tell you that that's a huge reason that you get burnt out quicker. Prioritize breaks with hard boundaries. This means after 9 p.m., you're going to go on Do Not Disturb and you are not answering a text or phone call. You are going on vacation and you are not answering a work email. When you are on break, you are on break. This could mean not answering literally anyone. This could mean not doing anything work related. This could mean not doing anything side hustle related. But having a break is having a break. Mentally, physically, all the things. You are cutting out the thing that is stressing you out as much as you can and not thinking about it, not doing anything related to it, not talking about it. You are on break. Identify and mitigate obstacles and stressors. Maybe when you're at work, there's someone who really stresses you out. You can't necessarily just cut a coworker out, but there are ways to mitigate it. You can, change your routine so that maybe you aren't around them as much. You can tell them, hey, I know that I have this project due, and when you just bring it up, it really stresses me out and isn't healthy, so maybe we could not talk about it. Of course, if it's someone who, is on the project, that's one thing, but if they have nothing to do with it and they're just saying yo, when are you getting this done? That's another thing. There's certain things that you can do to mitigate stressors. Maybe it's if you drink a certain thing, like caffeine really makes you anxious, you need to cut it out. Maybe it's if you wait until noon to do something, you have to worry about lunch hour and maybe you're driving and things like that. There are so many little obstacles that I'm just making up, but you have them and you can mitigate them for sure because they're going to stress you out more, and the more stress, the quicker you get burnt out. Have a support system you can be 100% honest with. I have friends that I love to death. I love them to death. But if I talk about my wildest dreams or a project I'm working on, they don't really get it. It's not that they don't support it, but they don't understand anything that goes into it, so it's kind of hard for us to have a conversation about it, and that's fine. But I also have people that aren't supportive of me doing certain things like the podcast or whatever because they're more traditional, and so I'm not going to go to them for support, and that's fine. It's okay to set boundaries and say, you're a good person, I love you, but I'm not going to talk to you about XYZ because you just don't respect it. Totally fine. as long as they respect that boundary. But you need to have a support system you can be 100% honest with. I could tell Josh, I hate everything, and he'd be like, cool, what are we gonna do about it? There's other people that I could say I hate everything, and they'd be like, no, you can't say that, da-da-da-da. So make sure the people that you are going to for support are 100% there and able for you to be honest with and bounce ideas off of. And you're comfortable talking to them. That's a big thing. Time and stress management are the key to avoiding burnout. Also, not procrastinating. That's a big part of time management, but don't procrastinate. I have ADHD, and I just had to do an ADHD test, and the way that I laughed when she asked if I procrastinated, girl, I came out the womb procrastinating, okay? Yes, I procrastinate. So learning not to procrastinate, kind of hard, but don't do it. It is the source of burnout because you're stressing about it mentally, you're thinking about it, and you still got to do it, and you have 1,000 other things that you're procrastinating, and if you would have just done it, you would have moved on and it wouldn't have stressed you out so much, and you wouldn't have had that built up mentally. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, time and stress management are important. Make sure you're managing your stress correctly and you have the correct coping skills. Additionally, make sure you're planning. Use a planner. Use multiple planners. Use to-do lists. Plan. Time management. When that timer goes off and you're no longer supposed to be doing something, move on to the next thing, and then you have time blocked out to do it again later or tomorrow. Make sure your time management is on par and you stick to it. Create a routine that works for you. My routine is not going to be the same as your routine. Your routine is not going to be the same as the social media guru who pushes self-improvement. We are all different. We all have different things that are going to make us operate differently. Shout out to mental illness. We all are gonna have different diets, have different sleep schedules, have different jobs. So my routine may be inspiring for you, but it's not gonna be your routine exactly. So find a routine that works for you and mitigates your stress, has good time management, allows you to eat healthy, get good sleep, and drink enough water. Here are some signs of burnout, the telltale classic signs. Reduced performance and productivity, anxiety, detachment, feeling listless or like you don't have like a sense of direction, low mood as well as being a pessimist, difficulty concentrating, me every day no matter whether I'm burnt out or not. Some of these are just like, you know, if you have one of these, you may not necessarily be burnt out, but if they add up, you could be very well burnt out. Lack of creativity, fatigue, head or muscle aches, feeling overwhelmed, and lastly, neglecting your needs. Again, I'm not a doctor, so if you are experiencing this, it's good to talk to somebody, but these are some of the classic telltale signs of burnout. So I think the most important thing in all of this is to know yourself, know your signs, know what you're capable of. Because I can tell you all day, like, don't do this, get this amount of sleep, drink this much water. But you knowing yourself and knowing when you're starting to feel burnt out and being intuitive about it is more important than anything I can tell you. So know yourself. And if you're starting to feel that way, I think something that I do first that is really helpful for me is to disconnect from social media as well as like technology. Don't isolate yourself, still talk to people, your friends, everyone, but get off of technology, get off of social media, stop comparing yourself. I think that especially if you're in America, hustle culture is a very big thing. It's like who can top who the fastest, and we're all constantly showing like our achievements and how much work we're doing, but you don't need to see that if you're struggling with burnout. You need to get away from that. So disconnect. It's important to mix things up if things aren't working. So that's changing your routine, changing up your work style, changing up your time management. Change up things until they work. If there's one thing that's not working, like maybe you have a hard time focusing in the morning, but you do really well in the afternoon, switch it around so you're doing your work in the afternoon and you're doing things that require less focus or motivation in the mornings. Definitely do what works best for you and be quick to mix things up if they're not working. Last on the list, do not live for the weekend. You should be living every single day. So if you are constantly burnt out, unhappy, then maybe it's time to make a bigger change. Obviously, my dog agrees, because life should be worth living. You shouldn't just be happy 2 days a week. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Hopefully this helped you out and you are going to improve your burnout circumstances. If you are feeling burnt out, I'm so sorry. I hope that this helps you feel better soon so that you can get back to yourself. And yeah, don't forget to follow on whatever platform, do all the engagement things. I'm not going to repeat it, but I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next podcast episode. Bye!